Everybody, welcome to Sooner Nation Podcast, the online podcast of Heartland-Sports.com. He's Rich, I'm Matt. Things that we're going to talk about this week. Kyler Murray has a new profession and he's been rewarded, or will be rewarded handsomely for it. Oklahoma softball gets bounced out of the Pac-12 tournament. The Women's College World Series. Sooners also come up short in Tallahassee. No Kyler Murray, no Steele Walker, no Tallahassee Regional Championship for Oklahoma. That season comes to an end.
Disappointing.
Spring sports are officially over, but here's the good news in all that. Here's the silver lining in all of that is that we're officially into summer now. To me, summer begins when spring sports end and spring sports are over. So now we're into the summertime, and what that means is you get a steady dose for the next month of 2018 college football previews. In fact, if you went to Heartland-Sports.com, you can see we have a new tab up there, 2018 college football preview. There's only 2 posts in that tab right now, but they're pretty extensive posts, offensive and defensive previews, quotes, breakdowns of positions, stats. Position by position analysis. It's all there, and that tab will continue to grow through the month of June. Then we hit July, and it's free agency time for the NBA, which means we get to talk about a lot of stuff as well. Speaking of NBA, let's start there. Sorry, I haven't asked you how you are. How are you,
That's
Rich?
okay, man.
You're in a hurry. You got places to go, things to do.
Yeah,
so
I'm
trying to run through this.
It's because of the Women's College World Series, man. I will say this, I fully expected Oklahoma to be there in the finale. And when we talked about kind of previewing the field before anything had officially kicked off, we made our predictions.
Right.
And the 2 teams I said would meet in the final aren't there. Neither one of them.
I picked Florida State and Washington.
No, you didn't.
Yeah, it's recorded.
No, you
didn't.
So needless to say, yeah, man, I thought I'd still be there. You're talking about kind of busyness of the schedule. I have taken on a handful of extra responsibilities almost last minute that I've got to drive all over the state of Oklahoma today. And so I still have 2 more trips actually in front of me before the close of the day.
All right, so what? Let me ask you this. On the Women's College World Series, we were going to start with the NBA, but we'll jump there since you drug us back over there. Where are you more surprised? Are you more surprised that Oklahoma's not in it, or are you more surprised that Florida State leads Washington 1-0 in the championship series?
I'm more surprised that Florida State's even in the championship series. And that's because you look at the road that they had to take. They were coming out of the losers bracket against what appeared to be an extremely strong Pac-12 conference and a Pac-12 team. Washington comes out, beats Oklahoma. Those 2 teams are so comparable. One swing of the bat essentially wins that game, if you're asking me. And I think that's kind of what we saw. A few mistakes on Oklahoma's part, allowing Washington to get that win, even though they're the 5 overall seed. But I fully expected UCLA to come out of the other side. So for Florida State having to take a similar path to Oklahoma, Washington stylistically plays like Oklahoma. Florida State schedules like Oklahoma. So we're seeing a little bit of comparison and contrast here when it comes to these teams. Florida State having to prove themselves by scheduling non-conference opponents and playing in tournaments. Washington doesn't have to do that. So yeah, I'm absolutely surprised, more so by Florida State being up with a chance to clinch it tonight.
Oklahoma loses twice to Washington. They lose Thursday in the opening round. They come back with an amazing performance on Saturday. Paige Parker, 2 complete game shutouts on Saturday. 14 innings of not just softball, but 14 innings of high-level softball, knocking off Arizona State and then Florida on Saturday. But
that's quite impressive.
Yes, but at the end of the day, Oklahoma's bats, I don't want to take away any credit from Washington because Washington pitched Oklahoma, 2 different pitchers, pitched Oklahoma perfectly between Thursday and Sunday. But at the end of the day, when you look, it wasn't just Washington. It was Oklahoma didn't hit against Arizona State. They didn't hit against Florida. But what saved them was Paige Parker on Saturday. But when you burn it through 14 innings on Saturday, they started with Paige Lowry on Sunday. That wasn't working. They went back to Paige Parker on Sunday. And, this Oklahoma team wasn't the same as that team that was there in 2017, and that's okay. When you look at what this class did, they're leaving this university having won 2 national championships, but I don't want to sound like that guy, but the reality is they disappointed in Oklahoma City. They disappointed because they didn't bring the offense, and when you look at this lineup and how many batters you had that were batting over 300, even over 400, the only person who showed up offensively this weekend was Jocelyn Alo, who also, if you need to look up NCAA softball on Twitter and go back and look at the press conferences with Jocelyn Alo after these games. Even after the loss, this girl is a star in the making, not just what she does on the diamond, but what she does in that media setting. And I after the loss of Sunday, she made some sort of comment like it was all over, and they're asking these seniors. The question is to the seniors, now that your career's over with, what are your thoughts? And Jocelyn Alo is the first person to respond. She's the first person to talk, and she's like, all the early morning workouts and all this and all that. And then these seniors are just staring at her, and they're like, dude, you still have 3 more years of this. Let us talk, because the question's coming to us. They have a star in the making, but now you look at what's going to be fall ball this year, and then the regular season starting next spring. The biggest hole in this team is you got to replace the Pages. And Paige Lowry was stellar. Sorry, Paige Parker was stellar, but Paige Lowry, I know she's the number 1 pick in the draft, but I can't think of anything she did at the World Series that was impressive. I'm just being a realist. That amazing career, amazing season, record-setting, 18-0 through the Big 12 Conference. But when it came time where she was needed in the circle, that first game against Washington, the second game against Washington, she wasn't there. That's all I got to say about that.
And it is unfortunate to say that, because I thought Paige Parker did an exceptional job in regionals and in supers.
Yes.
She was even asked to start, and not only start, but pitch a complete game against Arkansas. Was it Arkansas? Mm-hmm. Was it in the regional? Okay. With Arkansas.
Oh, no, it was against Tulsa. But she did start against Arkansas as well. Mm-hmm. But
I'm saying she pitched a complete game.
Yeah, that was against Tulsa.
And I said, I thought she did exceptionally well.
That was after Paige Parker had the automobile accident.
That's right. And I was thinking to myself, okay, here's Oklahoma with potentially the best pitching duo in the country. And the next thing I know is...
I'm sorry, we're getting... Keep going. The
next thing I know is that Washington is proving me wrong. Well, because they're throwing a freshman who held Oklahoma to 0 points on the board, 0 runs crossing the plate. That's darn impressive. Before Taryn, I don't even want to attempt to say her last name because it's a tongue twister. For me, it may not be for you, but it certainly is for me. And so she comes in and just closes out the game with the experience.
Right, and the thing is, and I get it, and I don't, because I don't want to sound too harsh towards Paige Lowry, but when you're not getting it from the plate, when you're a pitcher and you don't get the run support that you need, what you end up doing is putting more pressure on yourself than what's needed. And so, that's just what it is. And you saw the difference between Paige Lowry and Paige Parker on that, where Paige Parker was able to deal with that, not just through 1 game, but through 2 games on Saturday. And that, to me, that's what makes her performance all the more impressive. Was just from that front itself. Okay, Oklahoma and Tallahassee. Sooners post 20 runs. They went down there without Steele Walker and Kyler Murray available. It was always thought that they could pinch hit. They could step in at some point. 20 runs in the opener against Mississippi State. Shutout of Stanford.
Wasted them all.
Yeah, exactly. Shutout of Stanford 4-0. 24 runs in the first 2 games. But then Mississippi State comes back. Eliminates Florida State on an incredible walk-off, eliminates Samford. And then Oklahoma, it's the same problem we talked about throughout the season. It's the depth of this pitching staff. And, I got to give you credit. You said Devin Perez would be that Game 3 starter. I didn't think he would. I don't think he should have been. I mean, he was terrible. I don't know. Skip Johnson, to his credit, Skip is a pitcher's coach. Mm-hmm. And so I have confidence that he will develop pitching. It's just not there. And now you look at Kyler Murray getting drafted, Steele Walker getting drafted. First time in the history of the program, Oklahoma's got 2 players drafted, top 50 in Major League Baseball. And then Jake Irvin goes on the next day when we're recording this on Tuesday. So Jake Irvin goes on Tuesday. There's some big holes to fill in this team when you look at where they are at the end of the season and then where they're going to be next spring. They're going to have to hit JUCO. They're going to have to find some arms.
I was going to say, I think they have some people on the roster. We talk about how deep these bullpens go. We don't even see, I would venture to say we see 30 to 40% of the pitching staff throughout the year. There are more guys who just don't get that opportunity because they're not consistent enough, they're too young, or they've just been passed up and they're not going to be good enough to actually step out in a game situation. But I think they've got the bats that are hidden on the roster. You talk about a guy like Cade Harris. You talk about other players such as Cade Cavalli, who's on first, can step in and pitch. There are guys who can produce in the absence of the names that you've just mentioned. Will they produce at the same rate?
No, the answer is no. And there is no player currently on this roster that's going to produce what Steele Walker and Kyler Murray did.
Right, and I'm not saying that, but collectively, I think it's a possibility.
We'll just have to wait and see.
They're just going to have to change the way they play the game. It's going to be manufactured runs.
It could go to small ball. Again, this isn't an indictment against Skip Johnson. I don't want to come across that way.
No, and I think he's done an excellent job in his first year.
I agree.
I think they should have been in the Supers. I thought they were a team after Florida State was eliminated that had the level of talent to make it to Supers.
And again, not to be that guy.
You are that guy.
But if Steele Walker's playing and Kyler Murray's playing, if one or the other,
I don't know that changes anything.
I think it does. I do, because I think you've got some. You lost between Steele Walker and Kyler Murray. You lost your top 2 hitters.
Yeah, but I'm saying you've got Briley Ware. I've already mentioned Cade Harris. You have Kyle Mendenhall, who's been really consistent.
Mendy had a great regional, but at the end of the day, what Oklahoma did was they got on base. They couldn't get home. And the reason why is because your power hitters are in the dugout. They can't play. Kyler Murray and Steele Walker are your power hitters. They're the top 2 guys on the team in home runs. Mm-hmm. And you don't have access to that. Everyone else did their job by getting on base. It's just there was no one there to get them home. And we're losing that from this baseball team. They've got to find a way. And I think that guy, or those guys, as well as some other arms, they're going to have to come from the JUCO ranks. You're going to have to get another big time freshman that will come in, like a Cade Cavalli, somebody who can come in and just remember
a Sheldon Noisy.
Exactly, a Sheldon Noisy, somebody who could come in and just be an immediate impact player. And one of those guys, unfortunately for Oklahoma, was just drafted today as well. The kid from the Tulsa area just went in the MLB Draft to the Chicago Cubs. So who knows? Who knows what baseball is going to look like next year? We got plenty of time to figure that out. What I want to talk about now is football this fall. He's Rich. I'm Matt. Heartland Sports. .com. No, it's Heartland-Sports.com. Well, let's put the football, because that's going to take us home. So let me ask you this. Because I want to go back to what I was originally going to go with when you steered us down the Women's College World Series direction. Okay, LeBron James.
Yeah.
You and I talked about this at the World Series the other night. LeBron James gave an all-time LeBron James performance, in my opinion, in Game 1 of the NBA Finals. 50 points. You realize he's the first player to score 50 points in an NBA Finals game and lose it. And, J.R. Smith J.R. Smith is covering so much up right now because everyone's talking about J.R. Smith. They're not talking about the missed free throw that would have put him up by one. I don't know if JR thought he made that free throw or what, but you know what? The most egregious thing that happened in game one in that closing was J.R. Smith has the ball. He's clearly lost with what he's doing. And Cleveland went into that overtime with a timeout in their pocket. What's Tyrone Lue doing? Why is he not calling a timeout? There's so much that went wrong, and I told you this. I said Cleveland's done.
I told you Tyronn Lue's not the coach of that team.
Well, but
and people want to give him credit.
If he is, by the way, Austin Hansen. Breaking news here: Austin Hansen just drafted by the Houston Astros, 252nd overall pick in the 2018 Major League Baseball draft. So there's another arm that's gone from this team, but he was expected to be gone. Tyronn Lue, he is the figurehead. All right, whether it's LeBron or whoever, you can't, as the players on the court, somebody's got to call a timeout. And you think your bench guy is the one that can do that for you. And if you haven't seen the video of the moment LeBron realizes that he actually has a timeout in his pocket when they go into overtime, it's the tweet I saw was it's heartbreaking. I actually thought it's kind of funny, but whatever. So here's my question to you, Rich. With free agents, the free agent period approaching, the Cavaliers have to decide by like June 23rd what they're going to do with LeBron James, or LeBron James has to decide by June 23rd what he's going to do with the Cavaliers. Who, in your opinion, has the biggest opportunity or the biggest chances, percentage-wise, to stay where they are? Is it LeBron James in Cleveland or Paul George in Oklahoma City? I personally think they're both gone, but I want to know your thoughts on this. This is a question that was... Well, not the whole question, but someone tweeted at us the other day, just kind of out of the blue. We're talking baseball, softball stuff, and someone tweets in, hey, do you think Paul George is staying? My answer was no, I don't. But I want to know your opinion here. Who do you think has the best percentage chances of staying where they are?
I think it's LeBron. I honestly just don't see a way that Paul George stays in Oklahoma City. The reality, when you look at the culture here in Oklahoma City for a guy like Paul George, is that he's always going to be number two. Russell Westbrook will be the number one in Oklahoma City, and any guy that Oklahoma City brings in is to play a role for Russell Westbrook. Paul George came from Indiana, where he was the man. He was the guy. He was the go-to person. I think that after you get a little bit of a taste of that, playing behind someone's not ideal for you, which is why I still hold to the fact that the Lakers are a good fit for Paul George. It also doesn't help that Paul George started following Lakers players on Instagram. I don't follow him on Instagram, but people are making news stories out of this and trying to read between the lines and discover something that potentially isn't even there.
But see, here's what doesn't make sense to me about what you said, is that if Paul George goes to the Lakers, he's not going to be the man. I mean, who
would be?
Well, everyone's talking about LeBron going to the Lakers as well. Paul George and LeBron.
No, they both could.
Yeah, they could. When you hear all the rumors, it's Paul George and LeBron teaming up to go somewhere. I think there's a chance that LeBron goes to Houston as well. But what I'm saying is, point is, Paul George isn't going to be the man wherever he goes. So I don't know that I agree with it from that aspect. I think there's a better chance Paul George stays in Oklahoma City than there is that Cleveland keeps LeBron. I think LeBron already had a foot out the door going
when
in.
When he packed his bag and left the press conference?
Well, yeah, I think that was the culmination. He already had a foot out the door going into the finals. I mean, this guy single-handedly carried Cleveland to the finals.
But he's been doing that from day one in Cleveland as a rookie.
I get it. Well, I mean, he had help when they won it 2 years ago. No.
I'm just saying he single-handedly has carried them to the finals.
I get it. And the whole deal was to come back and to win a championship for Cleveland. He has done that. And when you look at, you know me, it's something that goes back to my coaching days. I'm a body language guy. I read body language, and when I saw the body language of LeBron James in that overtime, and then you go into the post game press conference, and then I didn't watch game 2. I kind of told you my interest in this was going to be based on how LeBron and Cleveland did in game 1, knowing that he gave an all-time performance and they lost. I had no interest in game 2, but when I watched the highlights on ESPN, I saw some really bad body language. LeBron James is done with Cleveland. There's no way he's staying. I mean, if there was a betting line on it, I would bet the farm if I was a gambler.
There's a betting line.
Is it really?
Yeah, I just looked it up.
What
you
is
want to
it?
know what they are?
Yeah, I want to know.
So the most likely landing place as of June 5th is, the Houston Rockets.
I mean, if there's a betting line that he's staying or going. I don't.
Oh, not staying or going. It's which team he'll play for.
I think it's Houston or LA.
It's a plus 150 for Houston, plus 300 for Philadelphia, plus 350 for Cleveland, and then plus 400 for the Lakers.
Here's the thing. He's leaving the East, which is going to be a monumental move for LeBron. The only way he's staying in the East is if he goes to Philadelphia. And here's the reason why. If Boston is the new team in the East.
You don't think the NBA would block that?
Well, I don't.
Okay.
Why would they?
Because who's going to play in the finals next year?
Well, I'm just saying, I mean, they didn't block Kevin Durant going to Golden State. Why would they block?
Yeah, but I'm saying he was already in the West. It didn't matter.
No,
you had a marquee matchup.
You can't block a guy from going east to west. But here's the answer to your question, though. Boston's the new team in the East. Think about what Boston just did. They had LeBron James on the ropes. We talk about that balance of power, paying your dues, earning your way up. Boston did all of that with their two of their best players not even available. You know, they're going to return Kyrie Irving. They're going to return Gordon Hayward next year. And what's that going to do to that team? It's going to make them that much better. Boston,
you think?
Yeah, Boston's a shoe-in for the NBA Finals if Irving and Gordon Hayward are playing this year. They're a shoe-in. LeBron knows that. The only way he's staying in the East is if he goes to Philadelphia. I don't think he's going to do that. He's leaving to go to the West. He's going to land probably Houston or LA. I agree. Houston was knocking on the door of knocking off Golden State.
Houston had 3 opportunities to close that out.
Yeah, and Houston is a lot closer to the NBA Finals than the Lakers are. I mean, that's just Laker fans don't want to hear that, but that's the reality. Even if you add LeBron, Houston's still closer to the finals than the Lakers are. Now, you add LeBron to the Lakers and they become a contender, but this Houston team is still better, and LeBron knows that. He's going to play his options out. I think there's a good chance, that Houston tries to make their way around a core of James Harden, Chris Paul, LeBron James, and Clint Capella. Now, the thing here is that Chris Paul has just come out and said he wants a max contract. I don't know if that's possible. That may make Chris Paul expendable, but the point of the matter is, to me, LeBron James is gone from Cleveland. I don't know that we're to where we can for sure say that Paul George is gone from Oklahoma City. We can feel like he is, but I don't think there's nothing definitive to say Paul George is gone. There is definitive evidence that LeBron's gone.
2 questions for you. Do they burn James jerseys in the streets again?
No, I don't think so.
That's all I needed. 2, question.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, just a yes or no. That's all it was.
Right.
I'm just curious. Question number 2. Yes, no answer. Is LeBron chasing rings?
No, he's got... Oh, sorry, no.
That's all I want to know.
I'm going to expand on those.
That's all I want to know.
I'm going to expand on those just a little bit, though, because they're not going to burn rings. They're not going to burn.
I hope not.
They're not going to burn jerseys in Cleveland, because he came back and did what he said he was going to do. He came back and won them a championship.
Not 1?
What? That's
not
fine.
2.
I mean,
not 3.
Ask Oklahoma City fans if they'd like to have 1 championship, and they're going to say absolutely. They burn Kevin Durant jerseys. No, they don't. They burned Kevin Durant. Stop it. They burned Kevin Durant jerseys because he didn't deliver on what they hoped he would deliver on. Same reason they burned LeBron jerseys the first time. He goes and he wins in Miami. He comes back and he wins in Cleveland. He came home. Hometown kid came home and did what he did. They're going to be okay with that. Now, there's always going to be that one fan, those handful of people that just feel like they're the best ever.
Now, the problem with your argument, though, is a lot of people thought it was this homecoming. It was the final destination. Here's where LeBron James is going to finish his career as a hometown kid.
I think it could have been.
He labeled himself as just a kid from Akron.
But there's not a good relationship between LeBron and the owner. That relationship...
Apparently the coach. I'm kidding. That
relationship has been severed, and it is irreparable. Irreparable, I guess, is the word to
that's how you pronounce it.
But anyway, so that's over. It's done. And then when you look at the talent that's around him, and I know people blame LeBron for the talent that's around him, but the talent that around him is not good. LeBron's gone. Kevin Love is gone. That Cleveland franchise is, I mean, Cleveland is going to be a lottery team in the very near future. Is he chasing rings? No. But he's smart enough to go to an organization that's going to be in the hunt. And before people, well, that's what he's doing. He's chasing rings. That's what people sound like when they argue that. But before you take on those arguments, the reality is every free agent tries to better their position in one or two ways. They try to better their position financially. They mostly do that younger, try to better themselves financially, and then they try to better themselves in a position to be with a contender. They do that older. Look at Chris Paul. He thought he was on a contender with the Clippers. He bettered himself financially with the Clippers, but at the end of the run, he saw that I can better myself. I have a better chance at being with a contender in Houston. If Chris Paul's healthy, we may have a whole different finals going on right now.
That's right.
So the reality is, he's not chasing rings. He's at that stage of his career where he's smart enough. He doesn't need the max contract money. He doesn't need the super max. He wants to put himself in a position to win another title. And I think he wants to do it from the West. He's done it from the East. He's done it multiple times from the East. Now to flip the script and do it from the West, I think that's his next challenge. I think again, my two spots are LA or Houston. That's the end of that argument from me. I'll let you have closing art.
I don't have a closing thought or a closing argument. I know that those are arguments that are going to be thrown out. And so, like I said, I just wanted a quick yes/no answer. I got it.
I keep hitting that button, and so I don't mean to.
It's the big red one.
The big yellow one's the sun. Okay, so Kyler Murray, number 9. My daughter lives in Weatherford, Oklahoma. She was in over the weekend for my birthday. I turned another year older on Saturday.
So my 2-9.
So I wish I remember that though. So my daughter comes home and spends the weekend with us, and I was actually taking her back to Weatherford yesterday, and I knew the Major League Baseball draft was going on. And my thought is, and you and I talked about this during the day yesterday, I've always thought that Kyler Murray would maybe sneak in late first round, but for sure early second round guy. And so I left my house about 30 minutes before the draft started, thinking I had time to go to Weatherford and then time to get back in order to see the draft and do our recap of that. I'm rolling into Weatherford and my phone starts blowing up with Kyler Murray going number 9 overall.
Right.
Now, I knew the talent level was there for a top 10 pick. In fact, Harold Reynolds said, had it not been for baseball, that Kyler Murray would have been his number 1 overall guy in the Major League Baseball draft. Do you think the fact that he's putting off 4.8, 4.7, depending on 4.5, depending on which source you look at.
It's 4.76 this year.
Do you think he's putting off $4.5 million to come back and compete for the starting quarterback job? Or is there an understanding that if you come back, this is your job?
What do you mean, with baseball or with football?
With football. I mean, he's done with baseball. He has played his last baseball game.
I don't think anything was guaranteed.
Oh, I disagree strongly. But keep going.
I don't think anything was guaranteed because you want to keep a spirit of competition. I mean, what does that say to a guy like Austin Kendall? Why doesn't he just transfer them?
Well, I think that's the next conversation Lincoln Riley has to have.
So, well, that's what I'm asking here, because you've got a guy like Spencer Rattler coming in who has lived up to the billing at this point in time at all the camps, the Elite 11, the things that he's been participating in. He's been rated extremely highly. So when you've got a guy like that coming in, you've got Kyler Murray who's going to play this year. Rattler can essentially redshirt that year. What happens to Austin Kendall? That's why I say I don't think anything was guaranteed, because I don't think Austin Kendall would have played throughout the spring. Here's what I do think happened, though. I do think Kyler Murray and the Oakland A's had a conversation beforehand. Going number 9 overall was not a surprise to Kyler Murray, because baseball doesn't just waste high draft picks like that. Let me put it this way. They're not going to waste the number 9 draft pick thinking, oh, this player's got the option to return to college. He's got the option to not sign. In fact, he's got the option to not ever step foot on the baseball diamond again. I don't think they waste that high of a draft pick. I don't think they waste that kind of a money. The baseball draft, each pick has a slotted amount of money, which takes out these long, drawn-out negotiations that were once associated with the baseball draft, and it has really left these organizations with just 2 questions to ask. Is this player worth that slot? Is this player worth that money? And do they have the talent to warrant it? That's all they're asking. Essentially, they're not deciding how much money they should be given, how much time they should be given to make a decision, etc., etc. So I do think Oakland and Kyler Murray, in my roundabout way of getting there, had conversations beforehand.
Sure
Kyler Murray knew where he was going, and the Oakland A's knew what Kyler Murray was going to do with football.
I don't think Kyler Murray knew where he was going to get drafted, because I saw the video. They didn't realize, they when they landed in Oklahoma City from Tallahassee is when he found out that he had been drafted. And when you look at the elation on his face, I think clearly Kyler Murray, he knew he was a top 10 talent because he talked about that. He didn't know it. In all of Kyler Murray's pre-draft conversations, he told teams, "I'm playing football." He did. I mean, he said, "I'm playing football. If you draft me, I want you to know I'm playing football." And it just takes one team to buy in, and that was Oakland. Now, I want to read some comments, and you probably have heard these, and there's one new comment that you haven't heard, I'm willing to bet. But this is Lincoln Riley last Thursday night at the Caravan in Tulsa.
Right.
Here's what he says. "I don't really care a whole lot about what happens in the draft. I've had good conversations with Kyler, his family, and I fully expect him to be with us. I really don't have any worries about it." And then he goes on and says, "Everybody else has been a lot more worried about it than me. I haven't lost one night of sleep on it, so I apologize if anyone else has. I mean, I knew the deal getting into it." Now, here's the thing. When he first decided to leave A&M, we had a very candid conversations with him and his family about it. Now, listen, here's the thing. They have lived up to their word, every part of it. I have no doubt they'll continue to do so, and I think they'd say the same about us. What is the word? Here's the thing. Kyler Murray is not getting a dime from Oakland until he joins that team. Why would you put aside $4.5 million plus to come back and compete for the starting job? The understanding is this is your job. You come back, you're playing, you are our quarterback. There is no doubt in my mind that Kyler Murray is now the starting quarterback for the University of Oklahoma based just on that. Now, if he goes out there and falls on his face against UCLA or Army or whoever, but I'm saying for right now, if you're Lincoln Riley, you've already had that conversation with Kyler Murray. That's why he's coming back. Now you got to sit down and you got to talk to Austin Kendall. Hey, AK, here's the deal, man. You're a redshirt sophomore this year, and you're going to stick around with this program. You're your QB2 this fall, and then you've got 2 years. You've got 2 years for this to be your team. And now you have those conversations with Spencer Rattler. Hey, Spencer, when you get here next spring, you're going to be a redshirt. Your 2019 season will be a redshirt season, and then you're going to sit behind Austin Kendall, and then your redshirt sophomore year, this is your team. You'll have the chance to be a Baker Mayfield. You can start sophomore, junior, senior year. You got to start moving those conversations down the line with these quarterbacks, and that's a tough position to be in because look at Lubbock, Texas. Look at College Station, Texas, with Cliff Kingsbury and Kevin Sumlin. They could not balance the quarterbacks, and the quarterbacks left, and someone's lost his job. Kingsbury's on the verge of losing his job. Now Lincoln Riley moves into a position where he has to balance quarterbacks. And it's almost okay if one of them leaves. I don't want one to leave. but it's almost okay if one does, or if Rattler says, I don't want to come in red shirt. It's okay if something like that happens, because sometimes you need a buffer between high-profile quarterbacks. Sometimes you do. But I'm telling you, Rich, there is absolutely no way you put $4.5 million on hold. Here's what Kyler's going to have to do, because Oakland's not going to pay him to play football. And they're not going to pay him guaranteed money to get hurt playing football.
He can't be paid until he's out of the college realm.
No, he can. In a different sport, you can be professional. Sure you can. You just can't be professional in football.
Are you positive?
How was Brandon Wheaton able to come back and play college football after being a professional baseball player?
But he wasn't getting paid at the time.
But the point is, he could play summer ball for Oakland and take money, and then come back and play in the fall. They can't pay him while he's playing, but he could be on a plane right now heading to wherever Oakland's putting their summer team, Cape Cod or whatever, and he can earn a bonus and he can earn some money from it. But he's going to be in Norman working out with the team instead, and they're not going to pay him for that. So Oakland has no investment in Kyler Murray until his season is over with. So Kyler Murray's going to have to reach out to Lloyd's of London and get Lloyd's of London.
Lloyd's of London.
Yeah, exactly. And he's going to have to get that insurance on himself for $4.8 million, that if he has a career-ending injury this year, then he gets that big payout. He's going to protect himself. All I'm saying is you don't go through all of that just for the opportunity to compete. No, not at all.
Listen though, because Kyler Murray's dream was to play collegiate football. He got one crack at it as a freshman, and then things at the program, not with Kyler Murray, the wheels kind of fell off the wagon down at College Station. Needless to say, I just don't see a guy who is passionate. Maybe his first love is football. He's a 5-star recruit, highly touted coming out of high school, just to give up on it. I just don't see that happening.
You give up because his future is baseball.
It is, which is why he wants to complete the dream. Okay, and then
do you
go
realize
for the profession.
Let me ask you this. You said you got a lot of running around to do today.
I do.
Okay, so if I were to
ink
a check to you right now, $4.5 million, because everybody knows I'm rich, right? And no, you're rich. Anyway, if I was able to ink a check, $4.5 million, and I put it right here on the table, I'm like, hey, Richard, you cannot cash this check until you've done all your errands today. And then at the end of the day, when you've done all those errands, you can go cash this check. Dude, you're gonna get those errands done in record fashion.
No, I got 90 days.
No, you are going to get that money in your bank as quick as you can. You're gonna break all kinds of speed records.
I see your point,
and I
just don't agree with it.
Well, we'll see. I'm just telling you, when this team hits the field.
So why not name him the starter then in the spring?
They're going to. I mean, all of the pre-conversation stuff was based on him being projected 35 to 40. Right. It was not based on him being projected top 10. And so now it's a little easier to turn down 35 to 40 money, which is still in the millions. It's a lot easier to turn that down and come back and play baseball and then go do that than it is top 10 money. There was an understanding. Listen to this. This is fresh. It's Eric Bailey Oklahoma football. Eric Bailey retweeted Oklahoma football. Here's what Lincoln Riley just said today, a few minutes ago. This is at 10 till 3, so a couple hours ago. As Kyler and I discussed prior to the Major League Baseball draft, we're excited to have him here with us for this upcoming football season. We're looking forward to getting him back around our team this summer, and he's excited to get into the workouts and help us continue to pursue another championship. We're also equally excited for his opportunity with Major League Baseball and being the 9th pick in the draft. It's a great honor for him, and he's going to have some great options going forward. There is an understanding between Lincoln Riley and Kyler Murray. You are QB1. I'm just telling you, it is there.
That's fine.
The next conversation that Riley has to have is with Austin Kendall. And I think Austin Kendall has bought into Lincoln Riley. He's a North Carolina kid. He's known Riley since Riley was at East Carolina. There's a good relationship there. I think that's a conversation that either needs to be had or has already been had. And I think Austin Kendall buys into it.
If it's already been had, that's fine. But we're sitting here in June. And if that conversation hasn't happened, I would be shocked. if what you say about Kyler Murray is true.
I think it is.
Okay.
I mean, I mean, what it comes down to, you don't turn down that much money for a chance. I mean, if I turn down that much money and I come back and I'm the backup quarterback, I'm not sticking around.
I'm not either.
So why is he coming back for a chance?
Matt, I think Kyler Murray's the more talented athlete. We discussed it just last week,
right?
Why Kyler Murray should be the starter, why Austin Kendall should be the starter. And I think if you just list out those pros and cons, there are more check marks in the positive box for Kyler Murray than there are for Austin Kendall. I think he wins the job regardless if they've told him. I'm saying if they've told him today he's won it, or they tell him in August, it doesn't matter. I still think he's QB1.
All right, that's a good segue. Last week we talked about the quarterbacks, pros and cons between the two, and we did determine that Kyler Murray was a starting quarterback. Lincoln Riley listens to our podcast. He bought into it, sent Kyler a text while he's playing baseball this weekend, said, look, Kyler, if you're drafted, if you come back and play with us, we're going to make you the starting quarterback, because the guys at heartland-sports.com said you need to do that. So that understanding is there. Let's look at running back for just a minute. I want to go through just a couple quick position breakdowns before we wrap up the podcast. By the way, this is Sooner Nation Podcast. He's Rich. I'm Matt. Thanks for tuning in, whether you're catching us on YouTube, iTunes, TalkShoe, or on our website, heartland-sports.com. We appreciate you joining us. Running back situation for Oklahoma is in good shape. I mean, you lose... I'm looking at receivers. I lost my place there. You lose Abdul Adams in transfer, but I think Abdul Adams, kid couldn't stay out of the doghouse because of fumble problems. He had the highest yard per carry average last year, 9.2. But you're bringing back the 1-2 punch of Rodney Anderson, and I think what you're really going to see develop in this role with these guys is Rodney's going to be your go-to guy. He's going to be your starter, so to speak. Trey Sermon, when we talked about this even last season, when we saw this develop, Trey Sermon is going to be your closer. I also feel like there's going to be some ways that they're going to work Trey Sermon into the offense where he's more of an H-back. Those are old enough to remember the 2000 season. We'll remember how Josh Norman played in that offense. I think Trey Sermon has a chance to be that, where he can be in the backfield, he can be in the slot, he can be at tight end, he can be in a number of different positions because I think he's that talented. I think you agree with me on that, Rich. If you don't, you can speak up here in just a second. But then the next question becomes about Marcellus Sutton and Kennedy Brooks. What do you see, what role do you see them playing with this team? Kennedy Brooks had a very nice spring for Oklahoma. He showed out a little bit at the spring game, especially after Trey Sermon was injured. Marcellus Sutton is that speedster guy. I have my opinion how I think I'm going to see them fill out, but I want to know yours.
You're more of the football guy than I am. And unfortunately for a guy like Marcellus Sutton, I think he ends up being more of a return man than anything else, because you like his speed, you like his quickness, you like his vision, but when it comes to burst and that just initial speed, I think he's a little bit behind a guy, and of course this doesn't apply to a guy like Trey Sermon at this point in time, but you want to talk about a guy like Rodney Anderson who proved all of the doubters wrong and showcase his speed. I'm specifically thinking of that Kansas State game where he not only showcased his speed but also his strength. When you look at a guy like Marcellus Sutton, I think he's a step back from that, and so again, I think he's more of a return. You utilize him in that capacity, give him an opportunity here and there, but it's a garbage time situation for him. With Kennedy Brooks, I really don't know where to place him on the map, because you have a 1-2 punch, but you like what you see from Kennedy Brooks in the spring, and you see the potential in how Oklahoma could potentially utilize him, because for me personally, he picks up in that kind of Abdul Adams vein.
Yeah.
I don't know that he is an Abdul Adams, but just an eye test, what I saw this spring reminded me a lot of some of the talent, some of the abilities that Adams had when he was on the field. So I think he gets an opportunity here and there. I just don't know how often that's going to be because of the consistency that we saw from a guy like Anderson and then the power that we see from a guy like Trey Sermon.
Yeah, I think I agree with some of what you said. I would flip that, though. I think Kennedy Brooks becomes your garbage time back. I do agree that I think you'll see Marcellus Sutton in the return game, particularly on kickoffs, not necessarily on punts, but on kickoffs. Being a senior, I think he's paid his dues with the program. And I think Marcellus Sutton plays the role of that change of pace guy. You know what I'm saying? And I think he is the Abdul Adams of last year, hopefully with better control of the football than what Abdul Adams had. But everybody remembers that 99-yard touchdown run that Abdul Adams had last year. And I think that's the kind of talent you have with Sutton. Kennedy Brooks is a redshirt freshman. He still has time in front of him with the University of Oklahoma, kind of pay his dues type thing. I think, here's my next question to you. I think Rodney Anderson is, on the offensive side of the football, the top professional prospect for this team going into next year's draft. He's going to have to make a decision after this season. I think there was enough tape on him after last season that he technically could have come out. He was a redshirt sophomore, but look at Joe Mixon. You just got to be in college for 3 years. You don't have to play for 3 years. After a redshirt sophomore season, he could have been a late round pick this spring in the NFL draft, but I think he has the potential, based on what we saw last year, to be a number 1 round pick. I feel like Rodney Anderson is that guy, and then you're looking at the next year, Trey Sermon having the exact same type of decision, and Kennedy Brooks slides in there 2019 and becomes the second part of that 1-2 punch. But for now, he's the garbage time guy. Marcellus Sutton will be your change of pace guy, and Rodney Anderson, Trey Sermon will be your two-headed monster, so to speak. That's the way I break it down. Mm-hmm. So, but the thing about running backs is it's all about the offensive line. It's what you have in front of you. And,
yes.
And when you look at Oklahoma's offensive line, everybody wants to talk about what they lost. And they did. You lose Eric Wren, you lose Orlando Brown. Those are some key components of this line. But, man, they've got a lot coming back. And I think they're deeper than they were last year. You got Jonathan Alvarez back healthy with the team. He's a Remington a watch list candidate. You got Creed Humphrey, who's going to be pushing him at the center position. Ben Powers, Cody Ford, Bobby Evans, Drew Samia is going to be a 4-year starter on the line. And then really, to me, the only position that's up to conversation is at that right tackle position, where you got Adrian Ely leaving the spring, I think, with an advantage there. But Tremonda Moore, a one-time Oklahoma commitment, had to go junior college route. He's back. I think Tremonda Moore lines up that position at right tackle. This will not be as powerful of an offensive line as what we had last year, just because of the Orlando Brown factor. But it's going to be a pretty dang good offensive line. Why are you laughing at me?
I'm laughing because that was the one area that Orlando Brown struggled in.
With power?
Measurable tests.
Well, just in the bench press. I mean, there's nothing on film with Orlando Brown.
Quick either.
Well, I'm just saying, you don't have to be quick. I get that. I subscribe to what Baker said. You will never see Orlando Brown do a 40-yard sprint in the NFL. But look at his tape. There is nothing on tape that makes you think this kid lacks power. He has long arms, and athletic guys know if you have long arms, it's hard to do a bench press. Now, I'm not making excuses for him. Dude should have been prepared for the combine, and he clearly wasn't. It cost him some money, but as we've already discussed, the Baltimore Ravens were like, yeah, we'll take him at that pick for that much money, and we're going to save ourselves some bank with it because they got first-round talent without first-round price tag. That said, I think Oklahoma's offensive line is still one of the best in the Big 12 this fall, which means these running backs, they're going to have equal to, if not better, than what we saw out of them last year. Because and again, I'm just going back to the coaching days. Anytime you're breaking in a new quarterback, you're going to see the same. You're going to see this across the Big 12. Here's a good write-up idea. The Big 12 has been a pass-happy conference for a long time. This year, it begins a transformation to a running conference. the running backs will be the feature of the Big 12 this year as opposed to the quarterbacks because there's so many new faces at the position. Not saying there's bad quarterbacks, but as we've talked about, who's the starting quarterback in Austin, Texas? Who's the starting quarterback in Stillwater, Oklahoma? Who's the starting quarterback in Fort Worth? Who's the starting quarterback in Lubbock? Who's the starting quarterback in Ames, Iowa? There are so many battles going on at this position that all of those schools I just mentioned, they have a running back. And when you're breaking in a new guy, you're going to feed that running back the ball until your new guy gets his feet underneath him. And I think that sets up for guys like Rodney Anderson and Trey Sermon to have a heyday this first third of the season while Kyler Murray, because we have agreed that he's the starting quarterback, while Kyler Murray gets his feet underneath him. All right, your thoughts on the offensive line?
I agree with your assessment there. It's still a talented unit. It's still an experienced unit. And I want to emphasize that experience because what you lose off of the offensive line and what you mentioned, Wren and Brown, doesn't mean there aren't guys who haven't stepped in and filled those shoes before. It's not as if it's a freshman coming in and adjusting to the speed of the game and trying to get used to what their assignments are and the schemes that are being played out. These are guys who have been in the Oklahoma system for quite some time who are stepping in and schematically have things down. They know what to do. They know what they're being asked to do, and they know the expectations. So all it comes down is to execution. Can these guys execute at the level that these other two did? I think they can. They may not have the same star power, but it'll be an extremely efficient group that really takes the pressure off of a guy. You're saying Kyler Murray's the starter. I'm saying Kyler Murray's the starter. So it'll take pressure off of a guy like Kyler Murray, but allow these running backs some space to run in and really be the stars of the show.
Yeah, and here's the thing that I didn't say, and people need to understand this about Oklahoma's offensive line going into this fall. Bobby Evans actually graded out as a higher he had higher game grades than Orlando Brown. Not being disparaging towards Orlando Brown at all, but when I just talked about Rodney Anderson had enough tape that he could have gone in a late round this spring. So could Bobby Evans, but he's going to come back and he's going to earn that paycheck by having a strong year this year. Last thing I want to talk about, and then we got to cut out of here because we're approaching our time limit. He's Rich. I'm Matt, Sooner Nation Podcast. Whoever wins this starting quarterback job, Kyler Murray, they're going to have a deep group of receivers. Everybody talks about Marquise Brown, CeeDee Lamb. Great Grant Calcaterra is going to step in for Mark Andrews, and I don't think you're going to lose much. Grant Calcaterra I think after his freshman year, he's ahead of where Mark Andrews was in development after his freshman year. Now, he doesn't have the size that Andrews had with that body type, but he has the physical ability to play like Andrews did, where he is a mismatch for defensive backs. He's a mismatch for linebackers. Because of his speed, linebackers are going to have a problem with him because of his size and physicality. Defensive backs are going to have a problem with him. He's going to find that hole in the zone. He's going to find his way at the seam. But then you also look at Charleston Rambo. I was so impressed with what I saw out of Charleston Rambo in the spring. And then people forget Nick Baskin is back with this team. I don't know that he's going to be to the same caliber that we saw him in 2016. I don't know if you rupture two Achilles, do you come back bionic or do you come back slower? I don't know, but there is a lot of depth at this position, and I think it's just going to be a chemistry issue that needs to develop over the summer. And once that chemistry's there between the quarterback and these receivers, I think it's going to be fun. Now, all that said, I'll let you comment on the receivers here in a second, and maybe you can do so in the answering of this question. It's obvious when you lose Baker Mayfield that your offense will not produce at the high level that it did with a Heisman winning quarterback. But when you look at Oklahoma under Lincoln Riley, every year you've seen a progression of the offense. You've seen improvement on this offense. What is your level of confidence in Lincoln Riley as an offensive coordinator? How much, I guess at the end of the day, my question is this: how much of a drop-off do you think you're going to see, our Oklahoma fans are going to see from this offense, during the 2018 football season?
Percentage-wise?
No, I'm just saying,
Well, I'm going to give you a percentage.
Yeah, give me a percentage. Just answer the question, whatever you best see fit.
Drop-off wise, I think with Baker Mayfield, obviously we bought into you specifically, and then I bought in a little while afterwards. But Baker Mayfield continuously touted these receivers after losing such a solid core. You talk about the guys like Sterling Shepard who had come through and really continued this trend. Well, when Sterling Shepard stepped off campus, we didn't know who was going to be that go-to guy. Needless to say, as I said with Baker Mayfield, he continuously said, just wait until you see these guys. Mm-hmm. They're some of the best. And I think a lot of that confidence that Baker Mayfield had was shared or spilled over in to them, which is why we saw the productivity, because he trusted them, so they began to trust themselves and really produce. But in productivity, I just don't think Kyler Murray's going to be... Baker Mayfield was extremely accurate, and it's not fair for me to say Kyler Murray. This goes for a ton of quarterbacks. I don't know that anyone can be as accurate as Baker Mayfield was over the course of his career. It's just highly unlikely. And so I think the drop-off that we see, I think we get 80% to 85% of that production.
Oh, you scared me. I thought you were going...
No, not the drop-off. I think we get 80 to 85. I don't think they're going to post 45 points a game, Matt.
I thought you were saying we're going to see an 85% drop-off.
No, I'm saying I think they can score 35 to 37 on average. I just don't see that 46 number popping up.
All right. He's going to break all of my records. Who said that?
For Oklahoma football?
Yeah. Who? Tell me who said that in what sport?
I really wish that it was a little bit further back, but it's Baker Mayfield in football.
Who's he talking about?
He's talking about Kyler Murray.
So Baker Mayfield talks up the receivers, and it turns out Baker Mayfield's a prophet and was right about the receivers. Why would we not throw him a bone when it's talking about Kyler Murray?
I don't know. It's hard to say he'll break all those records.
I mean,
I didn't think anyone would break Sam Bradford's records.
Well, that's true.
And then Landry Jones came along.
Obviously, Baker's talking about single season records because Murray will be a one and done quarterback at the University of Oklahoma. We've already established that. We know that. But the reality is, I think there will be a drop-off. I don't think it'll be a 15% drop-off like what you're saying. Mm-hmm. I think there'll be a drop-off, not in efficiency, but in scoring, because I think they're going to have to do it a different way. I think you're not going to see the wide open, fling the ball 50 yards down the field offense that you saw from Baker Mayfield, but you're going to see a spread attack that's going to capitalize on speed with a run-pass option, and it's going to be, in these first 3 weeks, it's going to be more dominant on run than it is on pass. I think this offense remains efficient. It's not going to score at the pace that they did in the years past, but because it's going to take longer to score. I still think this offense is going to be fun to watch, and I think all the keys are in place. You just got to have
option.
Listen. You joke about that. But we've already seen Kyler Murray. We saw him do an option play against Ohio State last year.
Right.
That will be in the playbook. You're going to have Kyler Murray under center. You're going to have. That's where Marcellus Sutton may come in. You may see Wishbone or the diamond. I don't know. Everybody, if you don't know, now you know. The diamond is just the Wishbone in reverse. But the reality is, you're going to see a lot of fun with this offense. It's going to be different. I don't think it loses efficiency as much as it loses points per game. And just because you're losing points per game doesn't mean you're taking a step back. You can still be very efficient and not score the same amount of points per game. That's my thought on that. Next week, we'll talk a little bit about the defense. We'll jump into some more of the summer preview stuff. Bad news on the bad news front. I'm breaking this bad news to you live on the Sooner Nation podcast. Next week will be our last podcast together until sometime this fall, because I am T-minus 11 days away from leaving the country for 3 months. But we're going to try to find a way somehow to continue having something put out on this channel and have some sort of updates. Obviously, when football rolls back around, we'll get back into the weekly podcasting as well, you and I together. He's Rich. I'm Matt. Catch us on Twitter at Sports Heartland. at Sports Heartland on Twitter. Heartland-sports.com is our website. Oklahoma football previews are coming up. We've got offensive and defensive previews already posted. Look at some of the incoming freshmen as the next in line for that, as well as other coverage. Breaking news today with Oklahoma landing a 3-star offensive line commitment for the class of 2019. That class right now ranked number 2 in the nation, number 1 in the Big 12. Second commitment in 4 days for 2019 for the University of Oklahoma. All that type of information is available. Thanks for listening. Have a fantastic week wherever it takes you. Boomer Sooner, everybody. God bless.